Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for joining us once again. This is episode 8 with Daniele Bolelli. He is a author and a transplanted super sexy Italian.
He's
the author of a book called On the Warrior's Path, which covers philosophy, fighting, and martial arts and mythology. Also authored 50 things you're not 50 things you're not supposed to know about religion. And his latest book that we're going to be discussing partially today is Create Your Own Religion. I got a chance to read the book and I found it fascinating. So he's a professor at Southern California universities. He's an accomplished martial artist. And he is also the host of the Drunken Taoist podcast. He's had multiple appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience, Duncan Trussell Family Hour, the Disinfocast. He's also been featured on Midwest Reel and London Reel. And just a general all-around badass motherfucker. So thanks for joining us today, Daniele. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jason. Thank you guys for having me.
Our pleasure, for sure. So why don't you give us a little history on you? I know that everybody can tell by your accent that you are Italian. And I knew you grew up
faking it this whole time.
It's just to get the bitches, right?
Yeah, totally faked it the entire time. I was actually born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. No, playing.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I grew up in Milan, Italy. I was there until right after high school. I came here when I was 18, and then I just started going to college here. Mainly, I just didn't know what the hell would happen in the U.S. Life in Italy wasn't bad, but it was very predictable. I pretty much knew what I would end up doing from the time I was 18 to the time I would be 80 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt a little dead. I just felt like the possibility, I knew what would await me and I wasn't all that excited about it. US was, the possibility of coming to the US seemed scary in some way because I had no idea. For all I knew, it could be amazing, it could be horrible. The possibilities were greater in both directions. And so when the opportunity came, I decided to take it and see what would happen. And, for a while it was hard. It took me a long time to get adapted to living in the US. It was probably a good, maybe 3-4 years before I felt fully okay here.
What was your age when you moved here?
I was 18.
Okay.
And,
good age to do that.
Yeah.
And eventually, after my 3-4 years here, things kicked into gear, and I got used to it, and I started enjoying it big time.
Excellent. Well, my apologies. I forgot to give our introductions on our end because of my brain fart here. So I'm Jason Abbott. I'll be your host today, and joined me is my brother Matthew Abbott.
Hello.
He's been a co-host with us before, so sorry about that lack of introduction. My apologies.
No worries.
I'm still trying to get the hang of this. This is our 8th episode. I'm going through different things, trying to find our niche here. So,
Good.
yeah. So we're talking about Italy a little bit, and it is basically, arguably, the mothership for the most powerful organization in the world, the Catholic Church, which you touched greatly about in your book there. Were you raised religiously or not, and how do you feel the church has influenced your views?
Well, the thing in Italy these days is that most people who live in cities, even though nominally most people are Catholic, the reality is that very few people are for real. Mm-hmm. Especially if you go in the countryside, maybe more so, but in most urban centers, it's really not much of a factor. There's actually way more participation in organized religion in the US than there is in Italy. And I think partially has to do with the whole history of the church, the fact that the church is right there, the fact that, you can only go through so many centuries of inquisitions and religious wars, and individual freedoms being squashed in the name of religion before people get annoyed with it. So I think that's probably why there's more of an anti-organized religion reaction where either people flat out reject it, or when they do accept it is, as one part of their life, not the dominant thing that shapes all their choices.
So basically, you're saying that they're creating their own Catholicism. Is that about right?
Yeah, which is what people have been doing forever, right? Because nobody when you base your life on books that contain very different advices at each page, inevitably what end up happening is that people cut and paste the part they like and they ignore the parts they don't like. I mean, it's like, the Catholic Church is officially against most forms of birth control, and yet the majority of Catholics, the overwhelming majority of Catholics, use birth control. So, it's like, you listen to it when you want to, and when you don't want to hear it, suddenly you just skip on it.
Right. And speaking outside of Catholicism, I mean, there's thousands of different types of Christianity alone. I mean, doesn't that speak for the fact that most people, they choose what they want out of religion anyway?
Yeah, that's what happens. That's why people, when they say they follow a religion, that's somewhat wishful thinking, in the sense that they will take out of their scriptures of their choice, they take the stuff they like, they ignore the stuff they don't like, and kind of make up their own twist on it. They usually pretend, maybe even subconsciously, they actually believe that they are following it literally. Most of the time it's not. There's a very heavy editing process involved.
I mean, part of the book, it really creates out, it points out a lot of different hypocrisies within all religions, basically. When we were talking about the Abrahamic or animistic or any type of religions, they all have a certain amount of dogma. Do you think that the Abrahamic religions have caused more damage over the years than others, or does everybody equally play a part?
What do you mean by that exactly? The Abrahamic,
like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
the core.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then animistic would be like, I guess, Buddhism and Taoism,
Gotcha.
things like that, Shintoism.
Okay.
I think it's with Western religions, with any monotheistic religion, things get trickier, because when you believe that there's one God who tells you how to live, then your range of choices is dramatically reduced, because at that point you really only have two options. You either follow it or you don't. And whereas in traditions that are not based on this notion of one God telling you how to live, but there is either more of a sense of mystery regarding the divine, or there's a sense of, more guidelines for life, is not that set in stone. So generally speaking, my experience is that monotheistic religions tend to have squashed the range of individual freedoms much more so than non-monotheistic ones.
Do you think that's partly why religion was created in itself, is for control?
I think it's probably the other way around. I think it's like it starts out as people honestly freaking out about the universe and wanting to have some kind of answers. And then eventually some people realize that you can gain a lot of power.
Yeah, take advantage of those people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure but I don't think it's entirely a cynical operation where it starts like that. I think it probably starts from a true sentiment, and then some people will run with it because they realize that there's a lot of power if you can become God's mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm. Well, ultimate power.
Yeah, the thing that immediately comes to mind for me is, me and my brother here, we were, in quotations here, brought up Catholic, but, we would go to church for a while, and then it just kind of fizzled out, as we got older, and we never really were at the age where we kind of understood what was going on or any implications of that. But, I know that after I grew up and realized there was no Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy, apologize for any children who are listening. No spoilers. I kind of felt like the rug was pulled out from under me and really started questioning what was real. And, now I kind of personally hold a hostile view to anybody telling me what or whom God is. And why do you think that more people don't actively question the dogma that's presented to them and just follow religion blindly because somebody in a funny costume told them to?
Dogma is a very reassuring thing. It feels good. That's why it's not even just the fact that many people somebody's manipulating them, is that people badly crave dogma, because dogma makes you feel safe, gives you a sense of certainty about the universe, and the universe is scary enough that sometimes it's just people need something more solid than the kind of answers than just simple reason can give you. So dogma, in that sense, there's an element that's very attractive, and people flock to it. Because it seems really strong. It seems way more solid and sure of itself and making a big show of confidence. that traditions that tend to invite you to question any conclusion, those are scarier because they put all the responsibility on you, and that's not something that most people want.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me to my next question here. Do you think that people like the idea of freedom or freedom itself? And like what you're talking about, it seems like people want like a daddy figure to kind of tell them what to do, but they still want to be able to, stray from that and do what they want, but they do want some kind of guidance, it seems.
Oh yeah, I mean, what's it going to take for people to actually be free thinking? If you look at all the stuff that's been happening in the church, and I mean, all the child rape and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I wonder what is it going to take for people to question that?
Right.
I mean, if the masses, I mean, I think a lot of it has been made people question things, but I just can't wrap my head around people that, are still supporting the church and giving all their money to the church. And these are poor people that are giving all their money to the church and not questioning it. And this wasn't just,
this isn't just Catholicism. This is,
yeah, I mean, it's so prevalent in every area of the world that this has been going on, and that I just, I don't understand how people can still be supporting this after it's not just,
localized problems.
Yeah, I mean, this is
global.
In every state and every city, it seems
every
like.
Country,
every
continent.
Yeah, people think that
it's just... Because what they get in return, they feel that it's more than worth it. And what they get in return is a sense of order. They are answers about all the basic dramatic things that freak people out about, death, what happens after you die. Is there a morality in the universe? Is there a logic to it all, or is just all random chaos? All the things that freak people out, organized religions give you very clear-cut answers to. And many people are willing to pay any kind of price to have that because it's just too scary to live without.
It's very unfortunate, I think.
Is that why cults, do you think, are so popular with people who are kind of really looking for something to grab onto?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing.
That's the answer,
Right.
Yeah.
I am the Messiah, I have the answer.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's funny, because it's not even only religious. If you look at like the popularity of so many totalitarian systems, whether they are communism through much of the 1900s, fascism, Nazism, or the religious ones,
all
Christian
the isms,
fundamentalism,
right?
Yeah, absolutely, Islamic fundamentalism, they are basically all the same. They disagree on specifics, but the basic dynamics are the same. There is one truth, we own it, and we have all the answers about how life works, and everybody should follow our way.
I heard you talking with, I caught the first part of your latest Rogan podcast with him, and you were talking about, back in, as early as, or as late as the 1500s that, people were not allowed to own a Bible and be able to read the Bible because they would be distorting the truth. They wouldn't be able to interpret themselves.
Like the telephone game, kind of,
Exactly, yeah. And over the years, let's face it, I mean, a man wrote these books, right? I mean, they didn't write themselves. They may have been divinely inspired, in quotations here. But, it was written by a man. Moses brought him down. And, just to take the one example, but, and they're tinkered with men over the years. I mean, if you look at Constantine and what he did to the whole canon, I mean, he basically rewrote it for his pursuit of power and politics. I mean, isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole notion of revelation is a tricky one. There's a book by Thomas Paine called The Age of Reason. It was written in the late 1700s, where he really breaks down in very simple terms the main problems with revealed religions. And it's the notion that, unless you have a revelation from God, how the hell do you know that somebody telling you, I had a revelation, is telling the truth or is making it up? And even if they are sincere, how do you know that they are not just a sincere nutcase, but they are for real? So the whole idea of revelation is, if you are this supreme creator of the universe, you can probably figure out a better communication strategy than talk into somebody's ear in a corner of the world somewhere and have them become your mouthpiece, and then 50 years later somebody writing down what they said, and 300 years later somebody deciding which one of their sayings are true or not. I mean, it doesn't take a god. Anybody can see that that's just a really dumb way of communicating. If a divine being wants its will known by everybody, then it should reveal itself to everybody
Right.
and just have this direct connection with everyone and tell them, so that way they can base it on their own experience rather than on hearsay.
Right.
And that's why you see, you know, most people that are heading these things up have lots of charisma, you know,
Mhm.
and that's why people follow that. But you know, it's
Cult
I don't think
personality.
that, you know, you have to go pray to get the answer from God in a $50 million you know, designed by some famous architect church, you know.
Right.
Where you got
that's
people,
ridiculous.
when you got homeless people outside, you know, needing food
Right.
or shelter and things like that. It's,
Yeah.
it's kinda hard to
That's
look
that's
at.
what you were saying earlier, is the contradicting of one thing to another, and most religion is mind blowing to me.
Right.
And that it just goes right over people's heads.
Definitely.
You're talking about God knowing everything. I mean, if God is really omniscient and omnipotent, why all the bullshit games for his love? I mean, is he
Right.
just a kid with an ant farm?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. No, in fact, there's some stuff that's really weird in the monotheistic traditions. The personality that they attribute to God is a highly disturbed one. It's like it's just kind of like it looks like they cast Joseph Stalin as God or something. This jealous, authoritarian, very moody God. It's like, Jesus, man, there are some real weird issues there.
Yeah.
So in some of like the animistic religions, when we're talking, I know that I kind of went through a Buddhist phase where, you know, I would consider myself a Buddhist at one time, but you know, even before I wrote was reading your book, it's, you know, I kind of took pieces of these religions that I thought resonated with me and made sense logically, and you know, these other, you know, kind of bullshit ideas that I thought of, you know, the whole Adam and the Eve story and how we're all fucking damned because one woman made a bad decision. You know, I just
Right.
these little stories like these fairy tales that, you know, and a lot of people take these as, you know, as word. I mean, I don't understand why these stories are taking so literally. I mean, we're thousands of years later now. We are more
Yeah,
intelligent as a species.
Because you have the leaders that are saying so, you know.
Right. You're
Right.
gonna. That means
And-
we're threatened with hell.
And
right,
it's those people
basically.
that follow that there's no changing their mind, because if something good happens, then it's because that they
God's
pray
will,
to God.
right?
And if something bad happens, then that's God's will as well, you know.
Right.
So it's,
Yeah.
they cover all the bases. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to prove or disprove. It's just one of those things where it's completely circular logic based on this abstract notion of fate. And there really is no way. That's why, to me, it's interesting stuff you can test. If you can test it, you know, anything that's based on fate make little sense to me. The religions where fate doesn't play such a big role and they are more based on, hey, try this out, either it works for you or it doesn't, then I find it more honest, because it allows you to check things out for yourself and make up your own mind.
It's even what the Buddha said. You know, don't take my word for it. You know, test these things, and if they don't make sense, they don't make sense to you.
I think
So,
but blind faith is the most dangerous thing in the world.
I think so too.
Yeah, definitely. That's why, in that sense, that kind of approach of just trying things out and inviting people to do that inspires trust right away, because you're not trying to sell me an ideology. You're telling me, hey, this worked for me, try it out. If it works for you, good. If not, try something else.
Mm-hmm.
I can live with that. You know, that's perfectly honest, and I have no opposition to anybody trying to convince me of that in that fashion by allowing me the freedom to decide for myself.
And I think you're seeing that more and more as people are starting to, you
Younger
know,
generations pop
to
up.
question things, and you know, there's seems to be a movement of, you know, atheists and getting their say in things, and you know, I think that's no different. I think, you know, people that think Scientology is so ridiculous, well, I don't think that's any more ridiculous than anything else,
Right.
you know.
No, of course not.
And you know, when we're talking about atheism here, I think that, you know, they take an anti-religious stance, you know, but I think they're kind of missing the point as well. I think we rely on science for a lot of different things, but, you know, I was talking with a buddy of mine, and he's a Christian, and we were having a conversation the last week, and I believe that he believes I'm going to go to hell. And even though he believes that I'm a good person, but because I don't believe that Jesus Christ is my one true Lord and Savior, I'm damned to eternal, fire and brimstone. I've accepted that. I've accepted that, and he's still my friend. And we can agree to disagree most times. But taking a hardline stance like that is just something that I can't really understand. I told him I can't take a hardline position either way. You're talking earlier, you can't prove it or disprove it. That's why I kind of take a agnostic sense, because I just don't think that there's any possible way that with our futile brains and our puny human behaviors that we can comprehend where all this came from, where the universe came out of existence. I don't subscribe to that there's one creator individual that, this is all this grand plan. There's just no possible way that we can fathom where all this came from.
That's why the agnostic take on religion is really the only honest one, in a sense, because it's just based on the fact that we don't have enough evidence. And so you keep your mind open to it. That's why, as you say, sometimes the hardcore atheist approach is just as close-minded as the hardcore religious fundamentalist approach, because it's often based on this notion that you know exactly how the universe works. And in one case, you know exactly how the universe works, and it's all based on God. In another case, you know exactly how the universe works, and this all excludes the possibility of anything that's not something you can see and touch right here, right now. Both of them are dogmatic approaches. Even the insistence of science as the only, and by science, I don't mean the idea of science, which is great, but the very process of things that can be measured in a lab kind of thing. Well, I mean, that's a great tool. Science is a great tool, but there's a lot to life that our current science doesn't understand. And there may be some aspects of it that scientific methodology just can't capture. So the insistence of science at all costs can sometimes be pretty damn close-minded as well.
Yeah, I mean, if something doesn't fit into 5 categories of 5 senses, there's no way we can even grasp it, And I think that it's so much. There's so much more out there than something that can be fit in only 5 categories. That's not very much.
I mean, we could cry foul to ideas, and I think science definitely gives us that tool more than anything to be able to weed out a lot of bullshit. But
absolutely,
there's like what you're saying. There could be so many more things out there that our current technology can't even detect,
or never will be able to.
I mean, look about dark matter and dark energy. They know that it's there by looking at other things, but they don't know what the fuck it is. They don't know where it comes from. They don't know what it does. Antimatter and all that stuff. The stuff they're doing with the Large Hadron Collider, over at CERN, things like that. It's that stuff. The exotic particles alone is enough to make your head
answering
spin.
some questions, but it's nothing will ever. I don't think will ever answer all the questions, and I think that's what life is all about. Period. Is having unanswered questions and
dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, science is a great tool, absolutely, but it's not any more than a tool with limits. So to assume that it's the beginning and end of it all, well, there's more to it that we can capture right now. Maybe we will in the future, maybe not, who knows. But it's always a good idea to keep an open mind and never trust a single approach to knowledge over all else and just rule out any other possibility.
Gotcha. I think the greatest thinkers are the ones that have gone against everything and have not stayed in line and have gone off and done their own thing and have paid the price a lot of times for it.
True.
And that's how progress happens.
All the heretics throughout the ages that we now know that they were really onto something special. Copernicus, Galileo, Da Vinci, countless people that have come before, and many that will never ever be known because they were thrown in some fucking jail cell and executed before anybody could even understand what they were talking about. All the burned libraries of Alexandria, all
makes
the
you wonder on how much has been discovered that
we
don't
won't
know about.
Yeah, ancient.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's the amount of lost knowledge is definitely unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Let's switch over to your book a little bit, and I think every time I've been talking to somebody about this book, Create Your Own Religion, I'm getting this weird, this weird gaze, like, are you leading me into a cult? What's going on here? Create your own religion. I know that L. Ron Hubbard, he was, famously quoted as saying, if you want to get rich, start a religion, and that's not what this book is about. It's about combining the best of all and leaving the bullshit behind. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and ultimately, it's not even that somebody has to follow my best of all. That's mine, it works for me. It's more of an invitation of do it for yourself. It's more like showing how I do it, what works for me. But really, the point is not to end up then following whatever I said. Is about doing the same thing for yourself, which may mean that it leading to different conclusions. But the whole point is it's an individual process that no one else can do for you. And with that, I just screwed up all my chances of having millions of people giving their paychecks to me, which is very sad. But,
damn it, man.
It's like, I know, I screwed up. But that seems like really the only honest thing to do.
I love the subtitle of the book. It's a how-to book without instructions. So if you think he's trying to sell you something, he's only trying to sell you the book. He's not trying to sell you robes or beads or, any kind of religious garb or anything like that.
Money machine.
Yeah, I did. I reviewed the book. I put a review up on the IGC website. You can check that out. There's tons of reviews on Amazon that are positive, and this is going to piss people off regardless of what type of take you run on. If you're not open-minded to something, if you take that hardline stance at atheism, if you take that hardline stance at Islam or Judaism or even Taoism, if there is a hardline stance with that, but you're going to get pissed off because it brings up, you open these cracks that, are out there with these tales in the Bible and these tales in the Quran, open it up.
Ultimately, the only thing that the book is against is dogma, nothing else.
Right.
I'm not against any one specific religion per se. I'm against dogma. And then again, I may decide that some stuff makes sense to me, others don't. In a way, the whole process of the book is sort of the same process that Bruce Lee applied to the martial arts, is exactly what I do here applied to religion. Yeah, it's the exact same idea, not any different. And that's why I was really happy to have, like on Amazon.com on the Create Your Own Religion page, there's Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, wrote a very nice endorsement of the book.
Which you interviewed also, and it's a great interview on the Drunken Taoist archives.
Yeah, she's a super nice lady, which is fun to chat with, and she was really cool. And, she read the book and basically said, I dig it. It fits with having her endorsement, considering that that's, in my mind, exactly what I'm doing with the book. Kind of what her dad did with martial arts is the same insights I'm applying to religion. Was very nice.
How do you apply your martial arts to everyday life? As far as not, when I think a lot of people, when they think of martial arts, they think of self-defense and the physical part of it. Maybe talk a little bit about the mental part and the emotional part that goes along with that.
Well, the mental part is everybody deals with conflict. And, physical conflict is only the most dramatic form of conflict. But there are clearly a million other conflicts that we all deal with every day. Conflicts between our dreams and reality. Conflicts between our better instincts and our laziness, our weakness, all the darker aspects of ourselves. There's a million battles being fought by everybody, every single day. And so to me, the martial arts teach you in a very sort of ritualized context to face, how to face conflict, how to deal with conflict on an emotional level. So in that sense, you can learn lessons from it that then you can apply to all the other conflicts of life, which ultimately are the important ones, those are the big deals in my mind. Martial art training is a lot of fun on a physical level. But unless you end up being in a profession or you live in a particularly bad neighborhood or something that involves lots of physical contact in the modern world, for most people, the self-defense aspect is not going to be the most relevant one. It's going to be how you can translate this attitude about conflict to the rest of life. And also it toughens you up. I mean, it helps you to deal with difficulty. You know, sparring is one of those experiences that having things not go your way, fighting your heart out and not always leading to the outcome you want, it toughens you up. It makes you, you know, that ability to keep stepping up and fighting again, no matter what the outcome is. That's something that makes you more resilient to life's curveballs.
Kind of learn as you go,
Makes you
right?
able to, yeah, it makes
School
you
of
able to
hard
stand
knocks.
up again.
Right.
Yeah, you'll never learn anything if things always go your way.
Or you, you stay in your bubble.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I mean, taking martial art on a technical level, becoming the greatest fighter in the world may not really be the best thing that can happen to you, in the sense that technique only apply to martial arts, but the attitude, the spirit, the mentality, that ability to deal with crap and keep stepping forward, that's what applies to the rest of life. Technique is fun, but is a game. The spirit behind it is what truly informs every other aspect of your life.
Being a mixed martial artist, it must give you a unique perception of what works and leaving out what doesn't. Is that one of the inspirations for the book, Create Your Own Religion?
Yeah, I mean, I really dig the pragmatic element of MMA because it's, you know, martial arts, like so many other forms of human knowledge, they can become very dogmatic. And for the longest time, many styles of martial arts were behaving like many organized religions, focusing on our way is the best way, our theory, our master, our whatever, without really testing it, or testing it only in a way that was very much like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The beauty of MMA is putting everybody on an equal plane and inviting to see what actually does work and doesn't in practice and not just in theory. And that's the beauty of it, that it's very honest, it's very, what you see is what you get. You're not trying to sell something in a way because the conclusions you reach are based on experience rather than being based on dogma.
So over history, I know just recently, you know, mixed martial arts and the UFC has really brought that to light, with people combining different methods, whether it be Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu and Kung Fu, all into one individual using all those in one fight. But has there been times over any ancient, you know, techniques where you would have somebody who was a Taekwondo master and a Kung Fu master go at it, or was it largely separated for a long time, or was it only reserved for battle?
I mean, clearly today there's more access to information than ever before because of globalization, and so people, rather than learning from the one guy in town who knows something, you have access to a lot more knowledge, so it's easier to do. But, you know, people always pick from whatever sources, try things out, and, you know, many of the things that we imagine to be these traditional arts, like they fell from heaven and they've been that way forever, they're really Aikido, Judo, most styles of Kung Fu, they have changed so much over just the last few decades, let alone centuries, that, you know, they are very much product of their times. They used to be something else just a few decades ago. So it's kind of an ongoing process. Styles are real only when you take them in a very limited time frame. That's why, like, a standard way to smell bullshit is when any martial arts styles tell you that our thing is thousands of years old, is automatically bullshit, because there's no such a thing as one style that has remained unchanged for too long of a time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're pissing off a lot of masters out there, I would imagine.
I'm sure.
You're speaking
but,
blasphemy, Daniele.
Okay.
But that's the nature of the business, because I mean, if you look at life, is anything you take today is gonna be very different 30 years from now, just because somebody else picks it and they have difference insight, and maybe they are thinking that they're reproducing it exactly, and they are not, because they're adapting it to their taste, to their circumstances, to their culture, through their own particular physical body. So the changes may be minor, but, you know, over time, minor changes adapt to huge changes. And that's why there really is no, this idea that we have of tradition as something that's unchanged through centuries is ridiculous. All traditions are constantly changing, and they are constantly being reinvented, transformed, somebody making up new ones. It's a constant process.
I mean, human beings have an innate ability to adapt to their surroundings and their situations. So I would imagine if you have a master at, say Kung Fu or something like that, and there's a game changer that happens in the area, and there's an invasion or something like that, and they realize what type of techniques they're going to be using. They're going to change probably pretty quick and incorporate something in their style or perish the earth. I mean, especially in the days of battles.
I wish that more people would think along those lines, is that, things change because everything else changes. And, and I think that's when you get the hard-headed people that, this hasn't changed and this is tradition, and, and they totally believe that themselves, that nothing has changed, that what they're doing is tradition. And if they only, knew the reality of it and how probably vast of change those things were, if people would be able to understand them a little bit better, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because again, tradition is reassuring. There's this notion of has been tested through time, is stable. You don't have to worry about adapting it. Is again, tradition in that sense is a dogma. Is a safe source of knowledge that never changes and adapts to all context. Well, unfortunately, that's not how life works. Life is based on constant flow and transformation and change. And granted, there are some patterns that hold true. Some ideas clearly will make more sense in different historical contexts, where others will be very limited in time. But even the best pattern in the world, you need to adapt it to present circumstances, which are constantly evolving. I mean, look at like Italian food, traditional Italian food. Somebody stole noodles from China, tomatoes from the Americas, boom, you have an Italian tradition. It's made up like anything else,
I hear blasphemy again. Now you're attacking food. I mean, is there no ends?
No, but then again, and tradition, by the way, can be new traditions which are constantly being created, can be amazing, such as the genius who took tomatoes and noodles and created pasta, or they can be crap. And you have somebody who takes, when I go to have Italian food in the US, I want to shoot myself. Actually, I don't want to shoot myself. I want to shoot the chef more often than not. Because I'm like, you took something that was so damn good and you made it heavy and fattening and it tastes like crap.
And that's another thing. If it's not broke, don't try to fix it. And I think that's another problem is, things will change themselves. I don't think people think that you have to work so hard on changing it. And I think, things will change itself if you just let it happen,
And it's like nobody can just sit there and, like what I'm doing now, it's not really fair to sit there and say, these change, yes, these change, no. Yeah, you can do it on an individual level for yourself, deciding what works and what doesn't, and deciding which one you should want. But obviously everybody has the right to change however they see fit, including, you turn some amazing Italian dish into crap. Hey, if it fits your taste, it's your thing. As long as I don't have to eat it, it's fine by me.
Yeah, if you want a bowl of noodles with Worcestershire sauce and that's it, more power to you, right? Yeah, but it's not going to work for you and I. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm wondering on how ritual falls into place with religion and everything in that, and how important having the ritual and ceremonial stuff is to all that. What do you think it is specifically used for? Is it for control? Is it for tradition? I know that
for enlightenment.
Yeah, and I know that it's so important to religion and to spirituality and to all sorts of stuff is the ritual of things. And I'm just wondering what you think and how that falls into place with everything.
Well, the ritual is, in a sense, there's something really cool about ritual, because it's where you stop just talking about religion, but it's something that you do, something where you experience, something that you act. And so there's an element that's cool about it, where it's not just something that goes through your brain, but it's something where your whole self is involved. Now, of course, there's a ritual and ritual, some ritual. And again, the bottom line is, if it works for you, it's a good ritual. If it doesn't work for you, it's crap. Clearly, assuming that you're not hurting anybody else in the process. As long as rituals are really a mean to an end. They are designed to take you to a particular state of consciousness. And whatever works in that regard, as within some basic moral dimension, which means no rituals that involve, me drinking the blood of a virgin straight from her neck. That's probably not a good idea. But, other than that, anything that doesn't involve crossing the line with somebody else's freedom, as long as it's your thing and it works for you, why not?
And I think that's a lot with the showmanship of religion and all the gold and marble and all that stuff. And like I was saying before, and how I think that's, you in Detroit here, you have, pastors and churches in the middle of the ghetto that are driving, a $90,000 Cadillac, and their whole church are starving and
alligator shoes,
and they love it. These people they want that to happen, and I gotta
look good. My people want me to look good.
Well, they truly, give their money because they want the pastor to be driving a nice car and to have all this gold because they think
God's warrior, right?
Yeah, I think that's why. And I just
we're all God's warriors.
Man, I've really picked the wrong gig here. That seems so much smarter.
Yeah, you have that whole moral dilemma thing, that compass points in a different direction for us, I imagine.
Yeah, what the hell is wrong with us?
I don't know. We definitely got in the wrong line of work.
Yeah.
I had in 50 Things, I had one chapter in the 50 Things Are Not Supposed to Know About Religion. I had one chapter that was entitled, forget the exact wording, but something along the lines of how to extract sex and money from your followers by creating a cult. And I had there was a blueprint to it. It's like all the necessary steps needed to create this cult and
that's scary.
Squeeze sex and money from the followers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's probably not the most, I wasn't advocating it. I was saying this is how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a minute. How does money play a role in religions? I mean, that's a huge loaded question, but it seems like most religions that I look at, you follow the money trail, and it leads to destruction. So
yeah, I mean, that's the cynical aspect of religion, right? If somebody was in it because they found the golden goose, quite literally, and they figure that that's the way where they can get their hands on lots of goodies. Mm-hmm. That aspect is obviously cynical, ugly, and weird.
Especially towards most of the teachings that are out of these holy books. I mean, and you want to talk about money, I remember you referenced a chapter that, in one of your chapters, you were talking about how how Jesus said it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a wealthy man to get into heaven. Am I misquoting that, or is that pretty dead on?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty damning, like you say in the book.
Yeah, that's really radical statements that most people gladly ignore because it doesn't fit with capitalism. It doesn't fit with them wanting to have the Christian God as well as a bunch of money. And so they just skip right over that part.
And it's tempting because, when you have the government saying, well, you guys will be able to do this. You guys don't have to pay any taxes. Yeah. Here's like waving a sort of freedom in people's faces. And all you have to do is start a religion, or have a religion, and they seem, be able to get away with whatever they want. And a lot of, that's clearly shown through the news, I think. That,
and I mean, granted, there are also some religions that do that in a very sincere way. Where
definitely.
Put a bunch of money into social programs and helping the poor and all of that, and that's great, you know.
And we should talk about that it's not all bad, and I believe that.
It's not all bad. That's why, my whole point is not, I'm very harsh on some aspects of organized religion, but I'm not dogmatic about that either. And that's what bugs me about the atheist dogma, that it's all the same. It's all religions, every single aspect of it is all equally bad. And that's, again, too much of a black and white view of life, where things are more complicated than that.
Yeah, some people do honestly need religion. You know, it provides, you know, a basic framework that they can, you know, go about their lives with. You know, I think it helps a lot of people, but I think most people get caught up in it, and it just gets twisted up sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of the atheists have had really bad experiences with religion, and I think that's why that blossomed up so much, especially recently. Mm-hmm. If you have a bad experience with that, then you're going to be like, you know, fuck this forever. Mm-hmm. You're not going to you're going to find the exact opposite of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, where a lot of that's come from. And that's why you've been seeing more and more of that. I saw an ad for atheism on the side of a bus the other day, you know?
Oh, shit.
No, yeah. And I get it. In fact, I completely get the atheist thing as a reaction to the horrendous abuses of many forms of organized religions for so long. Make perfect sense to me, and I agree with that. Yep. So I do agree with the part of atheism in that regard, but then again, I find take it where it's warranted. Don't turn it into another dogma, because just because the people you're attacking are screwed up doesn't make you good if you end up being just the exact opposite of them. Mm-hmm. The exact opposite may not necessarily be a good thing either. So really the issue for me is dogma in all of its forms. Religious forms, non-religious forms, doesn't matter. So there are ways of being atheist that are totally cool. There are ways of being atheist that are as fundamentalist as religious people. And again, even religious people, there are ways of being religious that are cool, and ways that are being religious that are horrendously fundamentalist. Mm-hmm. And really the problem is being dogmatic about it, not being religious or atheist. That's secondary to me.
So we're talking about atheists and having bad experiences and things like that. I'm going to move over to sexuality a little bit here, because you do touch that on the book, no pun intended. But in a lot of religions, celibacy is a big thing, and I believe it has a tendency to twist and warp normal human sexuality. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's weird, because I mean, it's the whole stress on celibacy is freakish, but even the ones that don't have celibacy but just emphasize sex within marriage only, no premarital sex, no masturbation, nothing else, it's almost as weird in the modern world. I mean, maybe when you lived and, you know, you married when you were 13 or something, maybe that was a different story. But definitely in the modern world, insisting on the people developing strong sexual feelings in their early teens, and the notion that they're going to have to wait 10, 15, 20 years before acting upon it is just psycho. It just doesn't make... I mean, it's a perfect recipe to fuck people up psychologically.
And then people, you know, act all weird, like surprised when when all this tragedy happens. Right. And, you know, if you cut off people from a human, very human element, that, you know, everybody has sex. I mean, not everybody has sex, but it's a very natural part instinct of being a human. And when you cut that off,
our DNA,
then of course there's going to be all sorts of weird things that happen with that.
Yeah. So the whole notion that sexuality is somehow at odds with spirituality is just flat out weird to me. Mm-hmm. It just seemed really bizarre. And even, again, not only in the insistence of celibacy, which I find downright weird, but even in the insistence of only sex within marriage, no masturbation, no premarital, none of that stuff is just, wow.
Yeah, you know, the no masturbation thing is a real ticker.
It's a human urge.
A deal breaker for me.
Yeah, it's a human urge, man. You know, like everybody has that urge, and to say no, you can't do that. It's like saying, you know, no, you can't eat. You know, no sleeping for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at little kids, freaking little kids masturbate all the time.
Oh, yeah,
and it freaks the hell out of adults because they attach all these meanings to it, which little kids do not. But it's just natural. Now, that doesn't mean any adult should have anything to do with it. It's their thing, and you should back the hell out and let them explore on their own. Mm-hmm. So you don't turn it into some weird abuse, crappy stuff, because that's just the worst thing in the universe.
For sure.
But as far as the fact that there's a natural, innate sexuality, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, you can really damage a kid. I mean, you walk in and on your kid beating off, depending on the age that they are, especially, what are you doing? And then their cock is a weapon they don't ever want to touch, it's going to hurt them in the long run.
Yeah,
But
totally. It's a way
It's so
to instill
damaging.
shame into one's instinct, in one's body, in one's sexuality, in all of that. And I mean, it's not even just a young teenager thing. If you look at a lot of freaking infants masturbate, they don't know what they are doing, but they rub something. They're like, that feels
it's a
kind of
button. You
good.
push
I'll
it, it feels
play with
good.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see what happens, And
Yeah.
usually nothing happens because they're not really developed to the point where, but it's a normal thing. And throughout much of history, people have flipped out and it's like develop all these things to make sure that, that's scandalous. It can't be done. It's hush hush. And even if you are not a member of any particular organized religion, you end up just sucking up so much guilt and weirdness just because of the culture that not that many people end up reaching their late teenage years with a healthy attitude about sex, because there's so much guilt and weirdness associated with it that it takes a lot of work to get rid of it.
Yeah, guilt is a dangerous weapon, and I think
Yeah,
a lot of
for
people
sure.
take a full advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Well, that's evident in all politics, obviously. So,
Yep.
I know that one of your previous podcasts on the Drunken Taoist, you had a chance to sit down with Chris Ryan again, and you were talking about the book Sex at Dawn. Me and my wife are actually reading that to each other at nights when we have chances, and it's fascinating reading about where sexuality has come from. It's taking it to a basic level, and the DNA basically it takes it back to the apes that came before us on the evolutionary scale. Whether you're talking about chimps and bonobos, they're very close, but their sexuality is very different, as ours is from theirs.
Right, absolutely.
But there's an element there that we are human. I think that a lot of that, or we're an animal, and I think a lot of that gets lost in religion, where religion puts the human being on a pedestal and says we are not an animal, we are a human being. But I find that to be complete bullshit. I understand the arguments behind evolution, where we didn't come from nothing. I don't understand the mutations of how we came into existence, and we haven't been shown accurately to describe how that's happened exactly. But it's clear to me when you do DNA analysis and how close we are to those evolutionary ancestors of ours, that we are an animal. And
I think that's all the proof that you need, at least for me. That's all the proof I need.
Right. And I think it goes, you can take that down a rabbit hole, but, I just think that, another thing, that sexuality in the world is definitely tied to the history of religion, and, looking at that we've always had a macho patriarchal dogma. And I think if we were tied to more of like a goddess history and a matriarchal society, things would have been a lot different.
Yeah, highly likely. I mean, patriarchy is just one of the things that has fucked up not only women, of course, because patriarchy inevitably led to a lot of oppression of women, but in some ways also fucked up men, because by establishing these very rigid gender roles about what's masculine, what's feminine, they have also squashed a lot of qualities that any healthy male could and should develop in terms of sensitivity, ability to relate to emotions, and all of that stuff in the name of fitting the archetype of what a real man is,
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad deal all around. It's clearly a worse deal for women, but it's not really a good deal for men either.
Yeah, there's a balance, obviously, that, if you're all macho or you're all feminine, you're missing that you're missing that other side. And I think some would argue that, that's what the significant other is all about. That's why you attach yourself to a mate of the opposite sex, so you can find that balance. But I don't think that it has to be that rigid. I think that everybody, you have X and you have Y, and you have to meet in the middle. There has to be some kind of gray area,
But I don't think it necessarily has to be between a man and a woman.
No, not necessarily at all. And that's why I'm saying that, when those gender roles, when they mix around a little bit, if you're homosexual or heterosexual, there's a gray area regardless. I mean,
but that's what religion, I think, comes into play that stops it is, you know, people need to start just following their feelings and, you know, and what they think, and try not to.
That's the devil. That's the devil talking.
Right. But that's the thing is, you know, I don't know where I was going with that, but
sorry,
I think it's, you know, another, you know, playing the puppet strings and every urge that you have, it's just the same with food. Here's the food you can and can't eat. You know, every desire that you would have as a human is being controlled, you know, by most religions, I think. And I think it's ridiculous that the gay marriage debate, I don't understand how that's not a human rights issue. Right. And it's ridiculous to me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're going to look back in 20 years and or longer or even shorter, and you're going to look back as we look back on the civil rights movement, where blacks, you know, had to ride on the, you know, the back of the bus, you know, and, you know, you couldn't drink from the same fucking water fountain and things like that. And I think there's a big problem globally, but especially in the United States, where, you know, where we have a chance to.
But don't you guys think that is a direct result of religion itself? Is that debate?
I think it comes from strict dogma.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, where else would it come from?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously, I think that a lot of people aren't, you know, they're not born into, you know what? I'm sorry. My brain's farting on me. It's late here over here in the East Coast, but I think I think that people, when you say, "Oh, it's a choice," if you're going to be, you know, gay, I think you can look at somebody who has suffered their entire lives with their sexuality, and I don't see how that argument holds up at all. Like, yeah, why are you going to go through all that persecution? Because you want to be, quote, unique and special, you know, and you want to stand out from the crowd.
Poor kids in elementary school getting their ass kicked every day.
Yeah, or getting killed.
Right.
You know, for what? For feeling different and being different and going outside of a dogmatic.
Right. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So hopefully, you know, we'll see, you know, a sexual revolution, you know, similar to what we're going through. I think there's great changes going on. Not just in the country, but globally now. And I think when we're taking a cosmopolitan look at the world and all these cultures are melding together, you're getting, you know, interracial marriages and, you know, great things are happening. I mean, typically, you know, when we talk about European, me and Matt are half Italian, and our father used to say the other half is perfect, but you know, the other half, my father's half is mixed between, you know, German, Irish, Welsh, and Scottish, and, you know, there's all kinds of hodgepodge that's going in there. I think, you know, maybe it was Betty White, says everybody needs to just keep fucking each other, you know, and not worry about the interracial lines, because, you know, there's great things that can come out of that. And when you take an us versus them mentality on especially races, all you're going to get is, you know, hell on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's weird now, up until not that long ago. I mean, when you think about it, it's not until the 1960s where the last laws that against interracial marriages were struck down. Yeah, I mean, laws against interracial marriages, how damn weird is that?
Yeah,
you know?
But it didn't end there. I mean, it went on for decades, and we're still feeling the effects of that, where, especially in the South, where, you know, if you're walking hand in hand, you know, a black man and a white woman or vice versa, you're going to get all kinds of crass and crazy looks. And
I mean, you know, people were, especially with homosexuality, I mean, there's people that are running our country right now that are comparing that with bestiality, for Christ's sake. It's scary.
They're the ones that are hitting up hookers and doing meth.
Yeah, totally.
You know, if you want to take a hardline look at that, look at, you know, just all these scandals with, you know, hardline Republicans where they're getting caught with, you know, gay hookers or, you know, smoking crack and, you know, all these hardline family values. Nobody can follow these strict rules. Mm-hmm. It's just impossible. No. And maybe it is possible, okay? But in the same lines of repressing that same sexuality with celibacy, if you're repressing your, you know, your emotions and your sexuality, it's going to twist into something different, and it's going to take on that darker side of things. I mean, you see it all the time, not just in religions.
Yeah, that's why any kind of anytime you're not able to live to your own standards, that means something pretty intense about the fact that maybe those standards are not, you think you like them, but obviously you don't, because otherwise you would be living according to them. It's like, I don't understand people who espouse certain standards and don't live up to them. It makes no sense to me. It's like the stuff that I believe, I live to it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't believe it. If it didn't feel right to live that way, I would probably believe something else. But this association between what people believe and what people do, I really don't get it. It just seems so bizarre.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Do you think there's any hope for us, for humanity, if we keep up these terms of these hardline stances with religion, or do you think we're going to come out of that and evolve?
I think human beings are what they are. So there's always going to be some amazing stuff associated with human beings, and there's always going to be some major crap. I think it's just a matter of stirring the pot and making sure that the crap doesn't become overwhelmingly choking the life out of all the good stuff. But I don't think there's ever going to be a time when it's all crap or it's all great.
Everything goes in cycles. History repeats itself. Everyone knows that.
Sure. And I mean, stuff, definitely, there have been things that have been improved dramatically. But so I'm not, I think a lot of people tend to fall into this dogma as well about either the modern world is the best thing ever or the modern world is evil and we lost our way. And it's like, it's a little bit of both. There are a lot of things that are so much better today than in the past. And there are some stuff that we definitely have lost. Deal with the contradictions. That's what makes it fun.
Mm-hmm. Well put.
So here's another loaded question. I just want to get your personal take on what happens after we die. Do the lights go out? Are we going to the pearly gates? What's your opinion on things?
Who the hell knows? I have no idea.
It's not important.
No, it's very important, but just because it's important doesn't mean I have the answers.
Well, you must have some feeling about.
Not that you have the answers,
right?
But what is your take on it? I guess.
Yeah. I have strong feelings going in multiple directions at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's
fair. I
feel
like, in some ways, my experiences tells me that there may be something more to it, and other experiences tell me the exact opposite.
It's about where I'm at.
If I really want to be consistent, I will just disregard one set of experience and stick to one for simplicity's sake. But if I'm honest with myself, I felt both aspects very strongly. Both the sense of there is something, there's a logic to it, I feel things that are not easily explainable on through a purely rational, materialistic way. And then in other ways, I felt the exact opposite. So that's why it's like any simple answer would be a lie.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's got it all figured out. I think everybody's got some ideas that resonate with them, and I think everybody at one point in their life has got to go through some conflict and what happens, after you close your eyes for the last time. And I would like to think that I would be welcomed with, open arms, with light, and never feel any pain or anything like that. But on the other end of things, that what's all that good for? If you don't have the good with the bad, are you still going to experience?
And to live your whole life questioning that too much, I think, is dangerous.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, Daniele, you're an educator, and famously quoted by Rich on your podcast that you answer hopelessness with a defiant middle finger, basically to the educational system. And I gather from listening to you on your podcast that you don't really get along with other professors too much.
No, I mean, there are some really nice people, but for the most part, like any institution, there's a lot of dogmatic approach how things are done. There's a lot of, the emphasis is not on delivering the goods for students, of making things exciting. And a lot of people who teach are really psychos who just like to hear their own voice. And their students hate them. And it's like, why the hell do they teach is just a mystery that defies all rational I mean, it really is just an ego trip for a lot of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that, I mean, if students don't like what you're doing and are not getting something out of it, you're doing the wrong job. And the reality is that most students don't like most of their teachers.
Yeah.
It's not that they hate them with a passion, but they are definitely struggling to stay awake and they are bored and all of it. And most of the time it's because teachers are just not that good. Not all of them, clearly. Again, there are plenty of people who are really good, but the average, yeah, not particularly exciting.
Yeah, not interactive enough, and I don't think kids should be going home at night in elementary school with 6 hours of homework. Of just reading in paper and right answer, wrong answer. I mean, I never did good in school ever, and I think we don't have another 2 hours on this show to even dive into the Detroit public schools issues here, man, because it is a mess. But yeah,
I mean, the way it is that if teachers and professors are passionate about what they do, students will feel it. And more often than, I mean, you can't clearly reach everybody, but more people than now will respond to passion. If you're not passionate about what you do, then why should anyone else give a crap?
Yep, well put.
Right on, man. Well, I think it's about time to wrap it up here. I don't want to take any more of your time than we have to, and it looks like we're over our hour mark where I like to try and keep it at.
Cool.
So, again, I just wanted to thank you for gracing us with your presence here. It was great to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt, thanks for being with us.
Thanks
You
for having
had
me.
some great points here that you put in, so thanks for being here tonight. Daniele, why don't you give a shout out to go ahead and pimp yourself out and let us know where we can find you, where the listeners can buy the book, other than our Amazon link on the Intellectual Gentlemen's Club website, and where they can find the podcast and the rest of your projects you have.
My Twitter account is D Bolelli, so it's my first initial of Daniel D, and then my last name Bolelli, which is Bolelli. There's my website is danielebolelli.com. You can find probably all the there's a link to the podcast there. There's a link to other things. So that's probably the easiest reference where you can find just about anything else.
Are you on Facebook as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Alrighty, I'm going to have links for all your stuff on there as well, and in our podcast description and all that. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to tell the listeners here to come on and discuss with us on our website. You can find us at intellectualgentlemensclub.com. We're on Twitter at IGCcast, and you can find us on a Facebook page, /Intellectual Gentlemen's Club. We also have a group on there. If you'd like to be added to the group, just send me an email at igccast@gmail.com, or any other questions or comments you have. I'd love to hear from you guys out there. Sometimes on the website, I put on a blog. I haven't done that so much since the podcast has been coming out, but if I find something interesting and I write about it, I throw it up on there. We're available on iTunes. It's great if you get on there and give us a review and give us that 5-star rating. It's be very nice of you. We also have on our website a donate button through PayPal. You can just use your credit card and give us any denomination you like. I did get some stickers in stock, so anybody who's giving a donation, I'm throwing you some stickers out there for free, of course. We do have some Google ads on the website. Think about taking those down, because some of the times people have been telling me that not the greatest things are popping up on there. It's kind of counteractive to what we're doing. I don't want to display Coke on our website or any of that bullshit. We do have an Amazon link on there. Quite a few people have actually been using that, and I want to say thank you. Any little bit goes to our hosting, and just keep us on the air and keep us doing what we're doing. When you guys like and share the podcast on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, any of that stuff, it just makes us feel good over here that we're getting the information out and that you guys are liking what you're hearing. So I appreciate that. Again, I've got that book review of his, Create Your Own Religion, on our website. You can check it out there, and on Amazon. Buy his book. It's really it's a fascinating book. It goes over a lot of different things. He makes great points, and there's a lot of notations at the end that you can do your own research on. And again, Daniele, thank you very much for joining us, man.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
guys.
much.
All right, hang loose out there, everybody.